reduce the levels of violence. But if we're looking more broadly at the ecosystem that enables these high levels of violence, we can't run away from the fact that it exists in a patriarchal society that is highly misogynistic. And until we are able to grapple with what that means, men, of course, will be and are the biggest beneficiaries of the system.
Absolutely. And I think for all I like you, I do also want to believe, I have already implicated women. I'm not saying this is by any means that this is only men or men are trash problem. I don't think so. I think this is a entirely societal problem. But if we look at those statistics, right, those statistics are reinforcing that in part this is also a really male problem. This is a problem which requires a lot of direct intervention with boys and men in our society. But I do also want to, in the same breath, say that I think South Africa has unique features, but it's not exceptional. I do think, and that's obviously what the 16 Days of Activism tries to suggest, that this is a global problem. And one of the ways in which I think normalization works everywhere, which we've seen here but elsewhere, is that in most countries there's a political class that normalizes GBV, right? That, you will have, in very many contexts, you will have a minister or a member of parliament or even of the law making comments that are misogynistic, make comments that are actually completely anti-women or patriarchal. So I think that sends a message, that this kind of behavior is okay because our political class is doing it.
Prof, we're going to continue the conversation in a moment. Please do stay with us. If you've just joined in, it's time for the latest news headlines.
Good morning. In the headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Monday launch the South African G20 presidency for 2025. The National Credit Regulator has warned consumers to be aware of scammers and cyber criminals while making online purchases on Black Friday today. This as some retail stores participate in the annual popular shopping event, offering special deals and discounts. And a prominent Chinese journalist has been sentenced to 7 years in jail on charges of espionage. I'll have details on these and other stories at 11.
Think festive season. Can you hear it? See it? Now imagine it purple. Yes, forget the tinsel because Click season is purple. It's that time of the year for the famous Clicks 3 for 2 purple sticker promotion. Mix and match any 3 festive gifts with a purple sticker and get the cheapest one free. Clicks. Feel good, pay less. Deals valid until 24 December or while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
The cost of living crisis is real. Here's what one Outsurance client did about it.
I'm Amy. I'm 26 from Kenilworth. When I got my 2022 Ford EcoSport, the immediate thought was to buy an Outsurance, and I pay only 819 Rand per month. No insurers were able to beat or match the premium that I'm currently paying.
Want a car insurance premium that will blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
It will be a hot affair between the Proteas and the English this summer. Who are the real queens of T20 cricket? Protea Fire meets England at Willowmore Park. What a summer without cricket! This is the third and final Women's T20 international match, where summer cricket comes alive. South Africa versus England on Saturday 30 November at 6 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue the conversation on the Talking Point. We're talking to Professor Srila Roy, who is a Professor of Sociology at the University of the Witwatersrand. We're looking at the state of women and children in South Africa as we continue to mark 16 days of activism against the abuse of women and children. Prof, one of the things that we as a country have not done enough work on, at least I believe, is to fully understand what is driving the gap between policy and implementation. So on the one hand, of course, there will be your inefficiencies, as you have described, that are obvious and everybody can point to. The other, of course, is whether the policy that we are developing or have developed is a fair and a true reflection of how people are comfortable with addressing matters of gender-based violence. Earlier on this year, research group Hlanganisa released a report that they were doing in, again with survivors of gender-based violence. And one of the things that they found in that report, which I was quite interested in, was that many victims of violence did not necessarily want to go and open cases because they also felt that that was not the right approach to dealing with the matter. That they felt it would be better handled if, they got families involved, if there were alternative methods of resolving whatever would have led to the disputes. And that, of course, brings in the cultural aspect of our country. It brings in the question of how people are socialized. And it seems to me that there is a gap between what the law says must happen and what people feel they need to do in such instances that will not be looked down on, that will not compromise their position within their families and their communities.
Yeah, Cathy, I think that's actually really hitting the nail on the head. And also what my feeling was when I saw the report about the difference between cohabitation and marriage, that immediately raised for me questions about whether, women in marriages do not want to actually seek out the legal route precisely because of questions of respectability on our family, but also if you have children. And I know this from my own personal experience, in ways that I think also people find very difficult to understand, that when you are in whatever family structure, cohabiting, marriage, divorce, single, but when you share children with a partner, it becomes very difficult to go for a straightforwardly legal approach. But I wonder if alongside those kind of what you would call cultural factors, whether it is also the case that, most people, I think most women know very well, certainly young women who I speak to on our university campuses know very well that, going to the police or taking the legal route is a fool's errand. There is, and besides the fact that nothing will come out of it, I think many fear that they will be re-traumatized, as we've said before. So I think because that avenue is already closed, it's also, time and labor consuming, often expensive as well, that, victims seek and survivors seek other redressal mechanisms. But to then default to the family, I think is a very tricky route, right? Because we know that families are also patriarchal institutions which do not always work in the service of the interests of a woman in particular, right? And so I think we have to therefore think very seriously about other mechanisms of redressal. But I do also want to get us back to the report and think of preventive strategies more. I think as a society with GBV, we get very quickly into the reactive mode. And what I liked about the report was to draw our attention to how do we prevent this, right? Rather than thinking about once it's happened, how do we react?
And I think those are important factors for us to look at. So again, I'm going to ask you, in terms of these recommendations that take a more preventative stance, which ones do you think could be low-hanging fruit that stood out for you, easily implementable, that will, of course, have the most significant impact?
I mean, I think interventions at the level of, so what they call early learning, right? Early learning and preventive initiatives. So at school, at university, or, all kinds of colleges, places of education, in religious institutions. I mean, those are always places of community, of learning. So how can we involve various stakeholders and actors, but also at various levels, to start really talking about this? And I know first-hand activists or non-profits who would do this work for free, who would actually go into communities. And on WITS campus, we have a gender equity office, and we often have students who volunteer at events or go into classrooms and do a shout out, etc. What a university like WITS could do better, and that would be low-hanging fruit, is to make a compulsory gender training course, right? That every student that comes into the university has to, has to undertake, not just a student, actually, it's all staff members at all levels, right? Administrative, research active, academic, etc., etc. So I think those kind of things would be really low-hanging fruit, and there to involve the right people, to involve the right kind of NGOs, to involve the right kind of, trainers is what I think will make the difference between just paying lip service and taking this seriously. I also want to just say about, the recommendations and preventive mechanisms, that we, and particularly you as in the media, have to constantly demand more of the state, right, and of governments, to say, because we all understand that there is resource scarcity for all problems, including this one. So where are those resources going? Are they really going to domestic violence shelters? Are they really going to non-profits? I mean, we know all non-profits are struggling in this kind of global climate and lack of funding. Are resources going into mental health education, counseling services? So I think we really have to take that holistic approach and keep saying, well, if we're taking a holistic approach to GBV, where are the resources going?
I want to look at another factor which I feel is quite an important one, and it's around the young people in the country. When we're looking at women aged between 18 to 24, we're not necessarily seeing declining levels of violence among young people. And I suppose, does it go back to matters of gender training, that we maybe don't even have to start it at university level, but that it must be primary school, high school, because it is concerning that there are these high levels of violence among young people too, who one would think are growing up in an age of awareness, in an age of understanding when it comes to gender and all sorts of other social issues.
Right. So I think, yes, absolutely. I agree with you that, it should come much sooner, right? It should, and for instance, there shouldn't be any kind of hesitation or what's the word, like shyness, but that's not the right word, of discussing this. There is, in fact, in the school curriculum under LO, you could very easily talk about these issues, and that shouldn't be left to particular schools or particular teachers. It should really be rolled out en masse, right? But I think the other factor here is that the normalization of violence, and as scholars have theorized and have said that South Africa has a violent history, and it is a violent society. So I think if children and young people are growing up with a high tolerance, even an appetite for that kind of violence, violence as a way of resolving interpersonal issues, violence almost born out of boredom, or violence as a way, and aggression as a way to deal with mental health issues, childhood trauma, etc. I mean, that is really, really significant, right? And that's really something to think about violence as a whole, and then think about how does GBV, land in that kind of terrain, right? Where violence on the whole has been normalized as almost as a way of life. So how do we then break that cycle? And I'm really heartened to see the report talking about mental health, because I do think we need a lot more, as I said before, we need a lot more resources to go into mental health training, offering people those services in affordable, subsidized and sustained ways.
For those of you who are listening to the conversation, I'd love to get your input. The number to dial this morning, 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. And on the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Of course, you're more than welcome to touch on any aspect that we've looked at in this conversation, and perhaps even raise new issues. But I want to know from you the gap that we see between policy and implementation that continues to exacerbate the levels of gender violence that we have in the country. What do you think is behind that? And how can we truly change this culture of violence that seems to be embedded in our society? It really does seem to be something that we simply cannot shake off. And we almost accept it as being part of our architecture, part of who we are. Let me go to Edenvale. Meta, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to your guest. Cathy, I just want to say thank you to your guest for being vulnerable with her personal story. That is liberating, and it's such an empowering thing to do for other people, for women and other people that are experiencing gender-based violence. So thank you so much for that. It's about the personal stories, in my opinion. The more we share about what is happening in law enforcement and the justice spaces and everywhere where we are supposed to get the help we need and we do not, it highlights the gaps that we have. Just because you have a board or a sign that says gender-based violence awareness or whatnot does not necessarily guarantee the help that we need. And I think that also addresses the issue that tends to, come up where gender-based violence seems to be equated with poverty or lack. You're an empowered, educated, a woman with agency. You can speak for yourself, and this. I mean, it's an equalizer in a very sad, way that we as women need to collaborate even more and support one another even more. I mean, I just think about my area and I wonder, what if something were to happen to me or to my neighbor? Where would I go other than the police station? Is there a place of safety around me? Is there somewhere where a woman can get support while they're trying to find a solution or when they're running away from a terrible situation? I don't know whether that exists or not. Can we create platforms in partnership with all the stakeholders around every police station to say there is continuous engagement between all of these stakeholders, and ultimately real feedback is being given to the police, to the justice system, and empowering information is given to the women to assist them on how to really get the help they need. Thank you, Cathy.
Meta, as yes. You're talking about, the need for this collaboration, I'm also thinking that it requires us to come out of this mentality that says, it's none of my business. Mm-hmm. That we must stay out of people's business, because that then becomes one of the greatest inhibitors to the success of collaborating. So even if you were to start, let's say, a group for women in a particular community where they know each other and they're just there to broadly be able to support each other, it is, of course, something else to have people extend themselves, be vulnerable enough, and share what is happening in their households. And we do have this culture that says, no, I don't want to get involved. It's none of my business. People must sort their own issues out.
I think it's all of our business that is happening. Just like when it's happening to a child, it's our business to do something about it. But the question is, what is it that we can do? And women that are involved in these spaces and specialists and, all of those women that do have more knowledge about how these types of issues can be handled, we can all come together and find a way to make it work. Find a way. It would never be easy because it's personal, and some people feel really it's a shameful thing. There's a lot of layers when abuse is involved. But we need to start somewhere. We cannot be here again next year.
Okay.
We cannot be at the diagnosis level again next year. Yeah.
Okay, Mita. Thanks for that call. Mita out in Edenvale, making what I think is a good suggestion that women must collaborate and work together, support each other. In the same way that Prof was sharing her experience about helping somebody else fill in a form. It's such a small gesture, but made such a big difference to the other woman that was in that queue struggling. So how do we ensure that we have something like that on an ongoing basis for women who have to interact with the system on a day-to-day? We're going to take a quick break. Prof, I'll also give you an opportunity to reflect on Mita's comments.
Imagine if every child born today and tomorrow and the next day and the next had enough love, enough food, enough safety and brain power. Today and tomorrow and the next day and the next. Together, we will change our future. Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
Give Outsurance a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's Yusuf.
Help it out. The service was quick. Absolutely phenomenal service from Outsurance.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Ever tried to paint a wall with only a brush? Or hung a picture on just a nail and a prayer? The contestants on My Design Rules will be the first to tell you good design starts with the right tools. Tune in to My Design Rules every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC3 and stand a chance to win a weekend away in the winning apartment. From beginner projects to expert builds, Buco has the tools and materials you need to get the job done. Ready to kickstart your next DIY project? Begin with Buco.
Buco. Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
SMS SAFM now on 41391.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM.
We continue the conversation on the talking point. We're reflecting on the state of women and children. Professor Shrila Roy is our guest for this hour. Prof, I don't know if you want to add anything to what Mita said before I continue with some of the comments from our other listeners.
I did want to just reflect briefly on, I thought it was very important, and I thank her for bringing in the point about saying we think GBV is something that happens to, less privileged people and communities, right? And I think that's really, really important, because I think that's also one of the ideas that hold our imagination, that this is something that in this country, for instance, just happens in townships and doesn't happen in the, northern suburbs and that kind of thing. And it does. It, as she said, it is the great equalizer. And I have experienced it myself, I think, with, people I know, including even colleagues who have PhDs, etc., who also tend to dismiss these experiences or tend to normalize. So I think it's really important to understand that this is something that could happen to our children, our friends, and then how will we react, right? And how our words have to be chosen very carefully, even if we cannot act and we cannot provide support, right? Even if we cannot go with someone and hold their hand through something. But just to say that I see you, I recognize this is abuse. This is not normal. And I feel like that for me, to have people tell me that power of that recognition has been huge, because I do think one distrusts oneself, right? One does say, am I being too dramatic? Or one feels shame. One feels a lot of things. So to have another person, really cut through that and tell you, I see you and I see what you're doing and I'm holding you through it, is very, very powerful.
Okay, let me bring in some of our other reflections from our listeners.
Cathy, hi. I came into the conversation quite late, but I just heard a startling submission from your guest saying that all men laugh at women. We protect each other. Cathy, I've heard that's absurd. That's simply not true, Cathy, and she needs to perhaps withdraw her comment. That is simply not true. Thanks, Cathy.
Good morning, out Cathy, and good morning to the SFM listeners. So with this issue of gender-based violence that you guys are discussing, I would like to be a bit controversial and just state out how violent of a country South Africa is. I just believe that we just live in a violent country. The stats of 80-something people dying on each and every day just reflects on the violence of our country. And sometimes, it is good to actually single it out, but then there are so many men who are dying compared to women. And they die on the hands of other men because we just live in a violent society. So many people are being killed and so many people are being hurt. So as much as we want to deal with this pandemic, as we call it, of gender-based violence, we should just look at fighting crime holistically.
All right, Prof?
Yeah, I mean, I think, one will always expect in a conversation on this that there will be someone who will say hashtag not all men. And I'm very happy to go with that. I'm very happy to, I don't think I've suggested that all men laugh at all women, but I'm very happy to withdraw that claim. But I would encourage your listener to actually look at the statistics. Because as much as we'd like to believe that it is not all men, the statistics suggest that it is most men. It is a lot of men. It is something that we really need to think about in terms of our, immediate family members, our colleagues, our comrades, etc. So, yes, I would just try and encourage people to look, not even at statistics, but even to ask the immediate women in their midst and ask about their experiences, as Neda suggested at the start. But I also think it's very important, the last point that was brought in, that yes, indeed, men are in fact huge victims of violence in this country. I mean, the statistics of male violence on male violence on other men is huge, and it's staggering. But I don't think that, I wonder if it's enough to think of that as a crime problem, as a law and order problem, as opposed to, as I've been suggesting on the back of the report, and I think you have as well, Cathy, to think of it as a much wider structural, even a historical problem, right, of cycles of violence, and how does one break out of those.
I want to quickly share this message that was sent through by Anonymous, who says, I'm a victim and I was molested as a child by my mother's brother when I was in primary school. I took this matter to the SAPS when I was 20 years old, but nothing happened to it because they wanted witnesses that I had informed of this act. I was now pregnant with my firstborn, and I had the fear of the same thing that happened to her, that the same thing would happen to her if it was a girl. I prayed long and hard for my baby not to be a girl, and my prayers were answered. As I matured, I also realized that even boys are vulnerable to such violations. Now I'm praying for them not to grow up and violate other people, and likewise, I'm still living with my pain on a daily basis.
Gosh, that's so painful.
It really is, and it highlights again to what extent the cycle of violence, if not broken, will continue to perpetuate itself. Think about the mother's brother and how many other people are likely to also be victims within the family. What do you do?
Yes. Can I just say, Cathy, also I think we need, again, this often, and, the not all men thing, it becomes this conversation about men versus women, right, in very blanket terms. But again, I think we have to think about this in a much more expansive way, right? So for instance, what kinds of masculinity are our boys and men socialized into, right? And what about their vulnerabilities and their traumas that they are not able to articulate, that there is no safe space for? Because, and I do think in some ways, this is, again, not exceptional, but unique to South Africa, but there are just really entrenched notions of what it means to be a man, right? And, which is not to be vulnerable, which is not to be seen as a failure in particular ways. I mean, if you think, for instance, of, and we haven't talked about this, the high levels of violence against, gender-based violence against trans and queer people and communities, much of that is a mode of saying, a mode of almost feminizing those groups, right? Saying you're not man enough or you've transgressed the boundaries of gender. So there is a lot of this kind of gender policing, which really should draw attention to gender socialization, particularly around boys and men.
Prof, we're going to have to leave it there. We're completely out of time. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Professor Srila Roy, it's time for your latest news.
In our top stories, 2 people killed in Eastern Cape road crash and Ramaphosa to launch G20 presidency on Monday. Good morning. 2 people have died while one sustained serious injuries in a crash involving 2 trucks on the N10 road outside Nguba, formerly known as Cradock, towards Middelburg in the Eastern Cape. The vehicles involved were travelling in opposite directions when the incident occurred. The provincial transport spokesperson, Unati Bingoshe, says the accident may have been caused by poor visibility due to smoke-filled conditions as a result of veld fires.
The MEC for Transport in the Eastern Cape, Mr. Golden Mata, is extending his sincere word of condolences to the families of the deceased while wishing the one in hospital a speedy and a full recovery. This is definitely not the best way to kick off the month and weekend, as we are virtually hours away from the busiest period on our roads, the December period. And the MEC is calling on every road user to be extra vigilant during this period.
Rise Mzansi leader Songezo Zibi says for long-term success of the government of national unity, all partners will have to show maturity. He was briefing the media at Parliament on his party's first 5 months in the national legislature. Rise Mzansi has 2 seats in Parliament and Zibi is the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. The party is also a partner of the 10-party GNU with the ANC. Zibi says all GNU partners, especially the big parties, need to focus on getting the work done for South Africans.
I don't know any relationship that survives where we have a private meeting and then immediately you're going to talk about it. and there's a bit of one-upmanship. It is so incredibly immature. I'm not saying everything must be secret, but when you're working through the early phases of a relationship where you've got to work together for 5 years, I think a level of discretion is important. The second thing is that the internal dynamics in the ANC and the DA might actually be detrimental to the GNU. But if we can work through these two things, I think the GNU has a very good prognosis.
The National Credit Regulator has warned consumers to be aware of scammers and cyber criminals while making online purchases on Black Friday today. This as some retail stores participate in the annual popular shopping event, offering special deals and discounts. A senior education officer at the National Credit Regulator, Cathy Mohlahlana, has urged consumers to buy what they need, to spend wisely and evaluate their levels of affordability.
The pull factor of Black Friday is the discount and the savings that you make. Yeah. However, if you are going to buy on credit, you may as well end up paying more than the actual normal price of that particular item. So we urge year in, year out that consumers should prepare themselves for Black Friday by putting money aside, saving money in preparation to participate during Black Friday. Then caution consumers to say those that will be shopping online during Black Friday and through the festive season and throughout the year anyway should be very careful and very cautious of the websites that they visit. There will be scammers and fraudsters who will establish websites specifically just for the festive season, knowing that it's quite busy.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Monday launch the South African G20 presidency for 2025. Brazil's President Lula da Silva handed over the presidency to Ramaphosa during the recent G20 Leaders Summit in Rio de Janeiro. Bonolo Maribe reports.
This will be the first time an African country leads the G20 for a rotational one-year term. Brazil held the G20 presidency during 2024, and South Africa will, at the end of its term, hand over the G20 presidency to the United States of America. The G20 is a forum of the largest economies in the world who meet regularly to discuss the most pressing issues facing the global economy. The presidency says under South Africa's leadership, Pretoria seeks to provide strategic direction in establishing a more equitable, representative, and fit-for-purpose international order.
And finally, a prominent Chinese journalist has been sentenced to 7 years in jail on charges of espionage. Dong Yoyo was arrested in Beijing more than 2 years ago while having lunch with a Japanese diplomat. His family described the sentence as a grave injustice. The BBC's Laura Bicker has the details.
Dong Yuyu was deputy editor of the Communist Party-affiliated Guangming Daily. He wrote opinion pieces in Chinese media advocating for moderate reforms while avoiding direct criticism of President Xi Jinping. The details of the judgment were released in a statement by his family, which said that the 7-year sentence is a grave injustice to Yuyu and to every free-thinking Chinese journalist and every ordinary Chinese citizen committed to friendly engagement with the world.
Recapping the top story, 2 people have died while 1 sustained serious injuries in a crash involving 2 trucks on the N10 road outside Nguba, formerly known as Cradock, towards Middelburg in the Eastern Cape. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Specsavers now looks after your hearing as well as your vision with Specsavers Audiology. With 60 stores and counting, we are South Africa's largest audiology group. For a limited time only, buy 1 rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy 1 rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. Find your nearest store at specsavers.co.za. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
Get ready to honor Madiba's legacy together. Join us on 8 December at the Union Buildings in Tshwane, Gauteng, as we pay tribute to Nelson Mandela with the Mandela Remembrance Walk and Run. There's a distance for everyone, 21 kilometers, 10-kilometer run, and a 5-kilometer scenic walk. Enjoy loads of entertainment and plenty of fun for the kids. If you can't be there in person, you can participate from wherever you are, uniting with thousands around the country to honor Nelson Mandela's vision of unity, equality, and a just society. All proceeds will support the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Register now at mandelawalkandrun.com. Let's come together to remember Madiba. In proud partnership with Gauteng Province the City of Tshwane, and SABC Sport. See you there. Let's make it a day to remember.
Celebrating our music heritage right here on the Friday Wind Down.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Shwe, aye Lesotho, si yo cité, c'est mon ati, Bangadalani, Baizwaka, Baizahera, Bainwa. Aye Mushwe. Aye Afrika, mukankanyani, wakata sichaba, Bangadalani, Baizwaka, Baizahera, Bainwa. Banali basadi, Bontate moholo, Mama pala murama rama, Nsuneke usune, baby. Hey brother, life is yours, you better look after it. Hey sister, come on in and change your life. Aye Mushwe, aye Lesotho, si yo cité, c'est mon ati, Bangadalani, Baizwaka, Baizahera, Bainwa. Aye Mushwe, aye Afrika, mukankanyani, wakata sichaba, Bangadalani, Baizwaka, Baizahera, Bainwa. Awaseba inile, ukeke wa mashema kamazo. Awaseba inile, ukeke wa mashema kamazo. Awaseba inile, ukeke wa mashema kamazo. Awaseba inile, ukeke wa mashema kamazo.
baye Moshweshwe, baye Lesotho, Mankapama, Harisofa, Yova Sekharile, Ohetala Sela Mama Yo, Hova Sekharile. Mama you Denzel from Kimberley. Thank you, my Buddha. Thank you, my Buddha.
Hi, Sis Cathy. This is my first time in Zafania here. Wow, Sis Cathy, what a nice music. What a nice music that you're playing.
Ntate Busana Mapifane is our Friday wind down guest today, an award-winning saxophonist, internationally acclaimed really for the work that he has produced, particularly in the genre of jazz. Excuse me, in the genre of jazz. Ntate Mapifane, good morning to you. Thank you so much for coming onto the show this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
You know, you live by a quote which reads, "If singing is art, then I must be a painter." Tell me why that quote resonates with you so much.
Sorry?
Tell me why that quote resonates with you so much. Why is it a quote that you have carried throughout your life?
Yeah, because if music is an art, then maybe I should be a painter then, because painters are artists. Painters are artists. So if singing or playing music is an art, then I should be a painter.
I was fascinated by the fact that you haven't released an album since about 2009. Is that still correct?
Yes, you're correct. You're right.
And yet, your songs and your music is still listened to by so many people. What is it that you think has kept your music as timeless as it is?
It resonates heavily to the ears of the listeners. Actually, I remember a long time ago when I was listening to Mele Tambula's music. There was a song where she says, "Hari kapempi femonati dipina." You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. Hari kapempi femonati dipina. So the actually what happens is that music to musicians should be agitative. Do you understand me?
I do.
It should be some kind of edutainment. It's education and entertainment at the same time. You educate the public, or you educate the people about whatever is happening around them, at the same time entertaining them. That's why I call it edutainment. So music should be edutative.
Your music has always had what is, yes, I want to describe it as a South African sound, but I'm also not blind to the fact that you, of course, were born in Lesotho, and much of your music also becomes a reflection of your experiences and what it means to you in terms of being Mosotho.
And my way of life at the same time. Yeah, so actually for all the people who understand the Basotho or who understand Sesotho, they should understand what I'm saying at the same time, because music is a universal language. You can tell what this is saying by not actually understanding the lyrical in the lyrical form, but you can understand here they're talking about this and that.
Some artists have expressed sort of challenges, especially coming out of Lesotho, of breaking out beyond just that country and really being able to make a name for themselves in South Africa, in the broader region. What would you say, reflecting now, you think you were able to do differently, and perhaps lessons that can be shared with younger generations of musicians?
Because, another thing is our Basotho music. We want to internationalize it like other musics. Like, for instance, you see, we listen to reggae. The Jamaicans internationalize their music. Peter Tosh, Bob Marley, Bunny Wailer, and all of those guys. Marcus, what's his name? Ruby Shakespeare, whoever. They internationalize reggae music. So we, Basotho, at the same time, we want to broaden our music so that we can reach the far ends of the world. Hugh Masekela, Caiaphas Semenya, Jonas Gwangwa, Miriam Makeba, Letta Mbulu, they internationalize South African music. The South African music is heard all over the world. So we want to do the same thing about our Basotho music.
Let's talk about some of your earlier years, and I'm glad that you brought up reggae music, because you spent quite a bit of time touring with Lucky Dube, and he of course was a reggae sensation. Tell me more about your experience during that period, and how you then ultimately switch from that to focusing on jazz.
Yeah, I was very happy to be in that outfit, because it was after me playing with Sankomot. So when I joined, actually they came to me, they asked me to come and maybe organize the brass section of the band. So I was so delighted to be part of that outfit, and we toured and we went to places like Uganda, Namibia, France, and all those places. So watching Lucky Dube on stage, at the same time me be playing, he was amazing. He was amazing. So then, when every time when you listen to my music, there should be a gospel song, there should be some kind of a reggae song in there, because I watched how it was received by the public when Lucky Dube was playing. So I said, but maybe let me do you remember the song Itata Ntwina. I was doing that with Frank Liapa. So the idea is to reach the far ends of the world and the people, because since they are familiar with reggae, then I put it in my own perspective.
What about that particular tour that you had? Do you feel influenced the trajectory of your own career?
Yes, it influenced me, and to broaden my understanding of music and the styles of music and the genres of music. So for me, it was a learning curve for me, and it put some more elements of how the music should go and what I should include in my own music. So working with Lucky Dube, really, I find it a lot about how to make that music, that form of music, or that form of art in music.
You, of course, had already had experience working as a musician at the point that you decided to further your studies. and joined to UCT. Why did you choose to do that as an artist? Because sometimes people feel, well, I'm already in the industry, I'm already making a living, so there's no need to actually go to school or educate myself further. But what did you think you needed to get out of that educational experience?
Okay. Besides me having worked in music with the bands like Sankomota, Lucky Dube, I found that there's some need for me to really dig deep into how music should be played and what is it in that music. I had a brother who studied music at the Federated Union of Black Artists in Johannesburg by the name of Mochoko Matatani. He passed on some years back in 2001. So he used to encourage me, like, if you want to play music, you have to know, be able to analyze songs, how this goes and everything, so that you can understand music better. Then at the end, I had to, I want to go to school. That's when I went to UCT to study music.
And how did you find your experience as a student who is not as young as the other students that are coming in fresh out of high school?
Because when the lecturers put the music on the board and say, hey, here we're doing, this is a 251, this is 145, whatever. Then I said, oh, okay, but I can do this. So this is what is called this and that and that. Oh, this is a chord 1, this is chord 5, this is chord 2, this is 1, this is 6, that kind of thing. So I said, okay. I developed a better understanding of what music is, which made easier for me to say, okay, I want to do a song like this. I want to involve this kind of a form in this song that I'm doing.
All of that foundation seemed to have put you in good stead, because you would, off the back of that, release what is to date still your best-selling album, which was your debut album. Tell us a bit more about it. I mean, that album sold 400,000 copies.
I think even more than that, because it made, I think, 6 platinums. It's still selling more than the other ones that I made after that one.
Wow.
Yeah, so like with the record companies, they'll say, okay, Mr. Mapefani, you made a hit album, so why don't you come up with another hit album? I said, no, I don't make it. How do you make a hit? How do you make a hit? I don't make a hit. I just write music and pass message to the public. I don't make no hits. So when you say I should make a hit, it's like, now I'm in business. So you're producing how many? 700 eggs per week, and now we want you to put more chicken so that we can have 7,000 eggs per week. So it's not like that. I don't look at music like that. Music for me is to pass the message and educate the public and entertain the public.
Does that approach not limit the income earning opportunity for you as an artist? Because ultimately you still have to find a way of making a living. So how do you balance the two?
The thing is, fine. I need money to make a living or to make more music. But now it shouldn't be money. It shouldn't be me chasing the money to try and make music that people will understand. I write music about things that happen around me, or my experiences in life. I don't just like throw words and I I take care of how this will be received by people. Whether it's a hit or not a hit, I don't make a hit. The people are the ones who will make the songs or the music be a hit or something. I just write music.
Our Friday wind down guest.
To the people. It's fine. I need money. I need money to make more music because everything has been paid for.
Fair enough.
Let's not chase money with music. Let's
don't let the record.
The money will just come if you did the right thing.
Yeah, look, Ntate Mapifani, don't let the record labels hear you say that, right? You're not making money for music. They would obviously have a very different view of it. Our Friday wind down guest is Budaza Mapifani, an award-winning saxophonist, a jazz artist, and he joins us for the Friday wind down today. It's 11:30. We'll continue the conversation with him. Of course, you're also more than welcome to be part of the conversation. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. On the WhatsApp voice note line, you can continue sending those voice notes and text messages on 0614 104 107.
With headlines at 11:30, I'm Dino Mutaung. Good morning. The Congress of Traditional Leaders, Contralesa, has urged families of boys undergoing initiation in the Eastern Cape to report to SAPS incidents of criminals demanding protection fees from initiates. In other news, 2 people have died while one sustained serious injuries in a crash involving 2 trucks on the N10 road outside Nguba, formerly known as Cradock, towards Middelburg in the Eastern Cape. And President Cyril Ramaphosa will recognize and celebrate athletes and coaches who represented the country at the 2024 Paris Olympic and Paralympic Games in France at a ceremony at the UN Buildings in Pretoria today. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Get your payments done with the utmost security and convenience when you purchase a TV license now. With our new secure payment systems with a one-time PIN, OTP feature, and the choice of receiving your OTP via SMS or email, you can ensure prompt and secure payments. The additional use of capture will protect you against spam and automated data attractions. With TV licenses, you can enjoy watching all your favorite shows or movies that matter to you. Get yours today. Visit www.tvlic.co.za.
It's heating up on My Design Rules, South Africa's hottest interior design reality show, this Sunday evening at 7 on S3. Watch as our design duos get cooking on their kitchen spaces. It's the heart of the home, but with the stress of deadline hanging over their heads, it's causing nothing but high blood pressure. Channel your interior designer with My Design Rules, Sunday evenings at 7 only on S3.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is back. After receiving hundreds of entries last year from South African writers of different ages and ethnic groups sharing their stories, now the time is yours. It's your story. You decide. SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound, the theatre of the mind, and to create a 1-hour radio play in English. Get writing now and submit your play before the 3rd of February 2025 for a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Okay, let's get this recipe right. Switch to S3 at 7 p.m. Add 1 scoop of mushindiki. Check. Mix in Team Green Pepper and Team Red Tomato, featuring 2 chefs and 2 contestants. Check. Blend in a limited budget per team and a mystery ingredient to add a bit of spice. Check. Set the timer for 20 minutes and voila, there you have it. A fresh episode of Ready Steady Cook South Africa on S3 every weeknight at 7 p.m. Channel your inner Salt Bay with Ready Steady Cook SA, Mondays to Friday at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM.
Tate Mapefane, Lewis Cathy, you remind me of a moment I used to have, or moments I used to have with my late friends, the late Tisetso Magube, the late Brastif Moyanyedi, Nerata Pinereng, Ntoki ena Mpumaleleme, Baibitsa Khera. I know Don Makatile likes the song as well. Oh, Aubatumba Mudim. What a great show, Aus Cathy. Thank you so much, Aus Cathy, for bringing Tate Mapefane. Ntate Budasa banna Ntoki ena Mpumaleleme ba re ke Khera. Ke se ba se ba enloke kwa ba sheba ka matlo. Ao banna, ao batho. You, I feel like resuscitating my friends, or resurrecting them, the late Tisetso Makubele, the late Brastif Moyanyedi. Ne re rata mo gaita gore o keke wa ba sheba ka matlong.
Ow, good day, Sis Cathy. Yeah? What a what? Now I understand why you were absent. Your absence now makes sense to me. You were busy trying to bring Ubuti Budaza to the show. Hey, this man. This is excellent, Sis Cathy. You came back charged. You came back rejuvenated. Bringing up the skillful, scintillating, chockful Budaza. I love this man. You know, we used to play his music back then when I was in Zim. Like Jovina, Jovina, Kai, my belly to Mela, oh! And then when it reaches the climax, like when you are when on the center, on the middle of the song, Jojavina, listen to the bass guitar. It will come, and the saxophone on the other side is coming up and down like in undulating format. Yo, Budaza, long live man! I love your music. Yeah, that's Chief, the tracker.
Tate Budaza, you still on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line, yes.
Do you want to respond to those voice notes from our listeners before we continue with our conversation?
They humble me. They really humble me. I'm so overwhelmed by their comments. So that drives me to make more music. Then I will do that. I will definitely do that.
It also highlights how music and your music in particular becomes a celebration, an acknowledgement of the Sesotho language, and it's helping to preserve the culture of that language. One also has to think about elements of heritage in that, because you're now educating so many people about Basotho. And I know earlier you talked about, infotainment or edutainment. But is there something that you've intentionally sought out to do? I just imagine you performing in Zimbabwe, perhaps, and having people there sing your songs word for word. Yes, they might not get the pronunciation right. They might not know entirely what it means, but that must do something to one.
Yeah, because I remember one other time I was in Blue Gambush. I went to some radio in the Blue Gambush. After leaving the studio, the whole yard was lots of people coming to come and see. To the others, hey, we know your music, we can sing along with it. And some are even singing those and this other, the one the track you just played, Babalas. I wrote this song about the people I was living with. I'm living with my wife and kids and my helper. So I was writing this song about them. Then they turn up to say I was singing the song about myself. I was not singing about myself. I was singing of what they think of me, because most of the time I was coming home late and everything, and like banging doors. Yeah, there I am in the kitchen trying to make something to eat before I sleep, and then there'll be dishes calling and everything. So I was singing about them, of what they are thinking of me, not singing about myself. Ufika ka le masiu o kotumanya ka dipitsa o khatlhela ka mamati wa re sodi ya rona re a roba wa re sodi ya rona re robile. So at the same time, for my experience, when I move around, we find that in the bar, you find people sitting there in the bar. They say, hey, we have been here, so we've run out of cash, so since we're now Africa, these are Africa, you understand that?
I understand. And I think it really is storytelling at its best, because you're taking ordinary life and ordinary experiences and you're translating them into the music, which is probably also why so many people find resonance with it.
Sorry?
I'm saying it's probably why so many people can relate to the songs and to the music, because these are experiences that they too have had.
Yeah, like most of them. Like for instance, after the album was released, after the song was released, some people came to me and said, "Hey man, you know this song? Hey, now you're talking about me. You're talking about me. This is what happens to me every time when I go home, because I come home. Sometimes I go home early. So early, which means they get home in the morning, in the morning hours. Early is not at 7 o'clock in the afternoon.
Sure.
Early in the morning. They get home early in the morning. So they, hey, my brother, you know, when you sing the song, hey, because most of the time, every weekend, oh, okay.
They're basically coming to you with their confessions.
So makes sense. Okay, hey, what do you think when you make music? I think about all things that you do.
Ntete Mapefane, what has been keeping you busy since the last time you released an album?
I'm preparing to do, like, for instance, these days we don't have albums, they do the singles, so YouTube songs. So I have a number of songs that I want to do and put them on do the singles. At the same time, I want to do live songs. Like I was talking to my brother in Johannesburg yesterday, Selailo Suluta. We're going to do a show in the Lesotho sometime in February. Because Selailo, like myself, he sings about his experiences and he sings in his language. And you know, we are like hand in glove, me and Selailo. So that's why I said we should do a free state tour, or let's do a tour together. You know, let's do a tour together. Let's not wait for promoters to promote us. Let's promote ourselves.
That's going to be a cracker of a show. I can tell you that much.
We're going to do a show in Lesotho. After that, then we're going to tour Free State or even Johannesburg and go to Polokwane as well. Together. Together.
Look, we had Selailo in the show, I think, in the last year, and the two of you combined will definitely bring in the numbers. Let me go to the phone lines. Khojane, you're calling us from Kroonstad. Good morning.
Hello, Cathy Mohlahlana.
Re gona le kae?
Rating. For more than anybody else, I'm sure Budasa will understand when I say Kesasa, Temankwane.
That's where I was born.
Yes, that is where I was born. Anyway, Ndade Budaza, ki Muhammadi ba ka mangwane ka mane ka lebitso se ke lebole se ke bue. Look, I was just careful. I know where Ndade Budaza is coming from. I know where he has been. In his first album, I was still in Lesotho in Maseru. I know exactly where he's coming from. But in Ndade Budaza, a lot has been said since the show started. That you also said you have been a painter. I mean, music is just like a painter. You know, you can paint. You know, you're an artist, things like that. But knowing now also a guy, I'm a bit disappointed because from where you're coming from, there are some musicians voicing Kunyana and who speaks the same language Sesotho as you speak, and I don't see any togetherness, and I can only see this type of music that you sing in Sesotho. I see it's deteriorating in the form of that you are singing. I see it erupting or coming up, you know, in a more like Kwaito, you know, those guys from Maseru, the one that is just passed away. They are singing the Sesotho in a fashionable way. But the Sesotho that you sing, it is the real one, and you can't even talk it, you can't even interpret it. But why is it that you're not coming together? Because I see the type of jazz that you are singing. It is eroding. It is fading. Can you hear me?
Ndade Budaza?
Yes.
Do you have
I've been listening, but at the end I couldn't catch what he said.
Oh,
hello.
Yes. Ndade Budaza, can you hear him though? Khojane, are you still on the line?
I'm still on the line.
I'm still on the line, yes.
Okay, Ndade Budaza, can you hear Khojane?
Yeah, I didn't hear him at the end, what he said at the end. I've been listening, but I couldn't hear him at the end what he said. Was it a question or was it a comment or something?
Yeah, look, I think he's asking a question around unity amongst you as musicians, particularly who are Basotho speakers. Khojane, let me give you a chance maybe to make that point, but just shorten it for me, please.
Yeah, please. I'm saying the type of Sesotho that Ndade Budaza is singing, the type of jazz that he's singing, it is getting eroded. And I'm saying there are some musicians where he's coming from, Bosin Tunyana, and he knows them. And I see there is no togetherness, there's no rescue in the type of Sesotho songs and language that he's singing. And I'm asking, why are they not doing what I'm asking?
Okay, Khojane, thank you for that. Ndade Budaza?
Yeah, you know, sometimes, see, being a musician, some people just do music because they want to be famous or they want to make money. So it's about commitment. Commit yourself to whatever you do and be one. Think like be in the same frame of mind of thinking, so that you can do things together properly. That's why they put up a band and say, oh, we are Sinku, or we are this and that. And some time down the line, you find that there's a split because of maybe money, or somebody doesn't come to rehearsal. Sometimes he comes only when we're supposed to go for a show and everything. So with my band, I make sure that, guys, let's be committed to what we do, and the rest will just follow. Let's be committed in what we do. Like when we rehearse the music, rehearsal should be different from practice. Practice you do it on your own at home, but when we hear we are putting the music together, we're putting up a song together, then that's a rehearsal. We're not here to practice our instrument. Your instrument you practice it alone at home. Practice is different from rehearsal. Rehearsal, we do it as a group, as a band, to put up a song and do the song properly and maybe brush up some edges which are not properly put in the music and everything. Correct the music, the notes and everything, the chords and whatever. So practicing, knowing your instrument, you have to practice on your own at home. Don't bring practice at the rehearsal.
Okay.
So most of the groups, they break up because of that. Some don't show up for rehearsal. Some, when there's no money, they don't come. That kind of a thing.
All right.
It's about commitment. If you're a musician, be committed to what you do.
Yeah. No, you know what, Justice, like, I wanted to say the same thing, but I was, I wanted to show it also, but you did the things, man. That's Putaza for me. Yeah, I know the feeling. We love it. We love it. You know, that his music clearly makes it. I hope government can start speaking this man's music, and all will be well, guys. Budaza, yeah.
Hi, Budaza, wamapefan. How no nicking? How no nicking who bound kile musadi waka? I kill an on with you. How cheres cock or out cheres cock skate.
All right, Ndete Budaza, we are almost.
Saying music is about commitment. Like I was telling you about this brother of mine, Sulaila Slaughter. We met yesterday in Johannesburg, and we're going to meet again. We had a show in the Dickens Park. There's a festival, we call it, I can't remember what we call it, but there's a festival on the 31st of December in Dickinson Park. That's where we're going to start with Saline, doing things like showing commitment of how we approach music and what we do. Another thing is and respect to the audience. When people have come to see you perform, respect them. Don't take them for granted. Do what they expect of you.
Ntate Budaza, I wish you guys all of the best with your upcoming collaboration and, of course, the performances. We look forward to seeing the tour, and let me thank you again for making time to be with us on the Friday Wind Down. Unfortunately, we're completely out of time for that particular conversation. That's where we wrap it up for this week. The show back with you again on Monday between 9 and midday. We'll say goodbye to you with the sounds of this incredible legend, Budaza Mapefane.
Choncho vinagirwa la bomonati. Choncho vinagirwa la bobohali. Choncho vinagirwa la basisutu. Utaue, le nuile, alinataba. Utaue, ochotsi, le taue, alitote. Choncho vinagirwa la basisutu. Bomonati. Choncho vinagirwa la bomonati. Bobohali. Choncho vinagirwa la bobohali. Basisutu. Choncho vina. Bobohali. Choncho vina ogaibo. Choncho vina ogai. Choncho vina ogaibo.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Love a good murder mystery? Then Death in Paradise Season 3 will keep you entertained with a series of impossible murders on the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Marie. Monday to Wednesday at 9 p.m. Channel your inner vroom with Top Gear Season 25 and 26, Monday to Wednesday at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime only on S3. Open up.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.6 FM in Mangaung.
It's 12 o'clock on Friday the 29th of October 2024. Warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SAFM. Leading the conversation, I'm John Gericke in for Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up this hour.
Goodness, there were more Black Friday signs than there were people. But, there's a whole lot of things to consider around why that's the case this time around.
You're urged to spend wisely and evaluate the levels of affordability this Black Friday. Also coming up.
I used to trust him. I could sleep in the house while he was inside and tell him that whoever knocks, tell him that I'm sleeping. And I could never lock him outside. What he did, I'm very much disappointed. Even my children are so scared.
The family that housed the man who allegedly raped an 11-year-old girl are deeply hurt and disappointed with the accused. That and plenty more coming up. Share your views with us on 41391. That's R1.50 for an SMS. You can call us on 086 000 2032 or WhatsApp voice note on 082 692 3909 or post your comments on Twitter or Facebook, SABC News_radio. You can reach us on X using the hashtag Updated Noon. Let's get the latest news at 1 minute past 12 o'clock.
Top stories. Contralesa appeals to families to report extortion of initiates, and UK MPs debate on proposal to legalize assisted dying. With the news, I am Dino Mudaung. Good afternoon. The Congress of Traditional Leaders, Contralesa, has urged families of boys undergoing initiation in the Eastern Cape to report to SAPS incidents of criminals demanding protection fees from initiates. This, as some families have expressed concerns about the rise of gangs demanding a protection fee for safekeeping of initiates at sites. According to some of the initiates and their families, criminals have been offering protection from violence in exchange for regular payments. The chairperson of Contralesa in the Eastern Cape is Nkosi Mwelo Nonkonyana.
And it is widespread, particularly in Kabeja, in the Nelson Mandela region. A form of extortion has been continuing for quite some time, because these ragamuffins and criminals, they then take the young boys without consent of their parents. Then they would extort them. They said, well, if the parents report, their children may actually suffer some harm in the sense that they may go mad, some of them. And then under pressure, then the parents, mainly those who have no money, would then succumb to those threats.
Staying in the Eastern Cape, 2 people have died while 1 sustained serious injuries in a crash involving 2 trucks on the N10 road outside Nguba, formerly known as Cradock, towards Middleburg. The vehicles involved include trucks which were traveling in opposite directions when the incident occurred. Provincial Transport spokesperson Unati Bingose says the accident may have been caused by poor visibility due to smoke-filled conditions as a result of